Oh, it's great to be back. It- that sounds really weird, but for those of you that have joined us before, we did a huge, Elizabeth and I, big series of these talks, these live chats on the run up to World Menopause Day. And it was a lot of hard work. We were getting them out once a week. And then other people wanted to join in, and then we had a load of other videos to do as well. And we've got about 40. So if you want to go onto the Pausitivity YouTube channel, we have them all up there. And then we were asked if we would continue with them, and we're delighted to be able to do so. Sadly, Elizabeth can't be with us tonight. She's got some family issues that she's having to sort out. She's really sorry she can't. She must have apologized to me at least 3 times today. So I'm passing on her apologies to you. And for those that have not met me before, I'm Claire Shepherd, and I'm the other half of the Pausitivity Poster Girls. I'm hosting tonight, so I might have to peer at the screen with my glasses on just to see if you're putting anything in chat and letting people in. But I'm really, really excited to introduce you all to Amanda Thebe, who is looking absolutely gorgeous all the way from the US of A, although I believe you're a northern girl.
I'm from Billingham.
Yeah.
If anyone knows where that is, I'm from it's near Middlesbrough. That's my, you can take the girl out of Billingham, but you can't take Billingham out of the girl. You know how it goes.
Well, you still retained your accent regardless, haven't you?
Yeah. I couldn't change it. I think I left when I was too old. I left when I was 28, 29. I think it was already like set in stone by then,
You should be proud of it.
I am.
We should be proud of our roots and things. So for those of you that haven't met Amanda, well, I know you haven't met Amanda, I have introduced you a few times through the emails that we've been sending through Eventbrite. Amanda has transformational, can't get that word out, with her own menopause, and she's written a fantastic book. And I have to put my teeth in. Oh, thank you. Menopocalypse. I did it. It's so hard to say.
No,
to practice. After a few gin and tonics, it might not be. And we're going to talk to her tonight about her own personal journey. And I know that although, we see lots of places, don't we, where everybody's sharing their story, and this is my menopause, and this is how awful it was, and blah blah blah. And for those of you who are struggling with your menopause, as I did, and I know that Amanda did, there is a cohort of us who are absolutely passionate at trying to stop other women struggling as much as we did through ours. And I know Amanda's got a great story to tell. So first of all, Amanda, tell us, how did you get to where you are now? Explain a little bit of your journey and how you did menopause creep up on you, or did menopause just smack you over the head one morning, or how did it happen?
Just to let you know, if you don't know me already, I am a personal trainer, fitness coach, and I live in Houston, Texas. I'm not from Texas, but I do say y'all because I like that word, y'all. And previously, I left the UK when I was 28, 29, moved to Boston for 2 years, then Canada for 15 years, and I've been in Houston for 4. So I've always been in the fitness and wellness world. Like as a kid, I did martial arts, and then I became a personal trainer when I was in my 20s. But I did that as like a passion project because I worked for IBM. I was a techie for them. And then when I'd had my 2 kids and I wasn't working, I started teaching. Like I'm a strength coach, so doing strength training for mums at the school. So like people like you and I, who I would see every day, and we would start working out together, and it became my business, and it's called Fit and Chips, which is a fantastic name. You have to agree. So I started Fit and Chips, and so this is like 20 years I've been a personal trainer. And when you're a personal trainer, you get the opportunity to specialize in different areas. And so I specialized in pre-pregnancy, post-pregnancy, postnatal rehabilitation, senior education for fitness. So like I have so many qualifications I can't even tell you. I've trained with pro athletes. I train with the Houston Rockets, who are the NBA team here. Like, so I've like worked across a whole cohort of people. And never in any of my training did I come across the word menopause, never. It literally goes from, you have pregnancy is the last sort of female specialty course you can do, and then you're sat in a chair with a resistance band. Like when you're 65, there's like a big missing chunk, and so I didn't know anything about menopause. Went into my 40s feeling a bit smug, very fit, really healthy, all of the things I was like trying to portray to women who were following me. I was like just trying to be just a good, realistic role model for them. And then when I was 42, I got unwell. And for 2 years, I struggled with vertigo, migraines, and generally nausea, just not feeling well. Seeing doctors, getting MRI tests, CAT scans, you name it, different specialists. And this went on for 2 years. Depression set in, probably circumstantial because I was feeling unwell for 2 years, but also because of the estrogen depletion. And so I then finally broke down when I went to my gynecology exam, like my annual one, and he sort of said, "Is everything okay?" And so then I started crying, because you do, don't you, when you're at the doctor's? No. And I broke down, and he just validated me. He just said, "Everything you're experiencing is normal. These are symptoms of perimenopause. I can help you, and know that you're not alone. I see women like you all the time." And I went, "What's perimenopause?" Because it was like the first time I'd ever heard that word. And I think it's common in our vocabulary now, but 8 years ago, when I was 42, I'd never heard the word. And I even couldn't find the word spoken about much when I sort of went down the rabbit hole looking for information about menopause. Anyway, long story short, I then wrote a blog post that garnered a lot of attention. It was like, what the fuck? What, excuse me, am I allowed to swear? I do that all the time. And what's going on? Why didn't anyone tell us about this? Started a community group on Facebook that's got about 10,000 women in. Like, there's lots of women clearly were in the same situation as me. Ended up writing a book about it after I did a deep dive into the research that was out there, especially in the fitness and wellness world. And that's how I came up with Menopocalypse. And I just was so frustrated at being invisible. Well, you know, we always say we feel invisible, but like just the lack of solid information. I was going to doctors for 2 years, and they were genuinely trying to help me, but they never once like associated any of the symptoms I was going through as being connected with my hormones. And my story is so typical of many other women. I mean, I'm just another voice going blah, 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 but you know, it's true, right? So when I wrote the book, I did want to sort of write about my story, but it takes up one chapter. The rest of the book is not about me, because I'm so tired of reading about menopause memoirs, you know, a little bit. I'm like, if I actually see another one, I think my eyes might strain. You know, but it's not that I don't care. It's just that I'm like, I know, you don't need to tell me. I get it. It sucks. No one's listening. But what can we do to change that? So that's like where people like you come in, Claire.
Yeah, but and you know, really get where you're coming from with that. It's good to know that the people that you're talking to and looking to for support and advice have actually understand where you are and understand the journey that you may be on. And we all know that we're all completely different. We are so unique, and there is no one size fits all. But if enough of us been there and got a t-shirt or 2 or 3 or whatever, can get together and share our experiences. So, you know, I could do that with nutrition, but I can't do that with the fitness. And that's where you come in, sharing that. And if you're anything like me, anybody who's listening, anything like me, in fact, I'll give you a prime example. I have a book on sleep, and it's like 700 and something pages long. On Audible, it's 16 hours. And I got so fed up of it all. I know. And you know what? all I want to, it's really interesting, but just tell me what to bloody do. And it's all on one page. There are 12 points on the last page of this 700 and something like 64 page book. So to have a book like yours, where, you know, you can give the background to show that you understand what women are going through, that you've been there, but then be able to really encourage people to take control, is just fantastic. And I know that the book's split into, I think the second half is split into like 4 bits.
Okay, so when I wrote the book, I did it in a purposeful way because, like you, I was looking for valid information, and I ordered a whole bunch of books. And when I went on Amazon looking, you had either the ones that were too comical, too flippant, that basically were like flipping us off. And I just was like, I just don't have time for that. It can be funny and you can have humor, but I just don't want a funny book about menopause. I actually want to learn something. I want to be educated, because the minute you are educated, it gives you choice. And that's what I didn't have when I was going to the doctors, because I didn't know. And that's what many women are not able to advocate for themselves, because they don't have the tangible tools to be able to do it. On the flip side of that, there were so many medical books like your 700-page sleep book that I just was like, I can't even remember what you just said. It was just... And so when I wrote this book, it's in 2 parts: my experience and the solutions. And the experience talks about, like I just said, my story, about midlife, things that also collide at the same time, you know, just our circumstantial things that happen and what we know from research to do with our like happiness levels and things. Why we get fat, because people always ask about that. I talk about, you know, so what happens in the body from a physiological standpoint, what we know from the research. I then talk about hormone therapy, you know, what it is, what it isn't, and it's written for a US audience, but it's applicable to the UK audience. You know, it's the same. And then the second part of the book is solution-based. So I basically say, this is what we know about what menopause is and isn't, right? And I try and get rid of misinformation, because there's too much out there, and I'm not trying to sell you a magic pill either. And that's part of my message, is that I'm not here to say I can fix menopause and you're broken and this is a solution to get rid of all your symptoms, because that's not what we know menopause to be like. You were saying it's so unique to everyone, a shared experience, but your symptoms are going to probably be nothing like mine. So what I did is I broke down the second part of the book into menopause hacks, and I suggest women build a toolkit. Now, from my nutritional background, we know that diets will work if you adopt habit changes. Diets and health markers can be improved if you do small changes often, so you get new behaviors, rather than adopting like a regimen, or a restrictive diet or a hardcore exercise routine. Chances are it's not going to be sustainable. So everything I'm trying to tell people is sustainable changes that they can make, not just for menopause, but like for beyond, until we die, basically, because we're postmenopausal until that time. So the nutrition I talk about, I'll give you a quick rundown: how to eat and what to eat. So the how to eat, I keep pulling my headphones, I keep forgetting I've got them on. So the how to eat is just like how the body works from a physiological standpoint, like what the neurotransmitters do in the brain to tell us about hunger, to tell us how we're satisfied and when to slow down when we eat. And adopting these small changes is actually teach you how to nourish your body. And then I talk about what we need to eat. And I talk about this from a macronutrient standpoint, from your proteins, your carbohydrates, and your fats, what nuances happen through menopause, which we can talk about a little bit if you want, and what priorities we need to look at. But I'm not saying this is a menopause diet, because there is no such thing as a menopause diet. There isn't, right? Nutritional science is pretty standard, and it's pretty easy to understand, and there are many ways to get to your weight management goals. So I talk about that. Then I talk about exercise, about daily movement, about having a movement-filled life as opposed to a sedentary-based life. And I introduce strength training, so I want everyone to sort of like do strength training, and I provide a 12-week program that's got an entry level for anyone. Like, I think anyone can do it, and that's always my message. Everyone's a beginner at some stage. So if you're an athlete and you want to do these workouts, they'll benefit you. And if you're an absolute beginner, I show you how to ease into it as well. And especially at these like pandemic lockdown at home type situations, it's an easy way to sort of like find exercise in your day. And then the next chapter is about stress management and sleep management and how that impacts our overall health. Like a lot of women don't understand that high cortisol and being stressed all the time is probably having more of an impact on their health than the food that they're eating. And so I talk about how stress impacts the body. And then the last part is a bit woo-woo for some people, but it's all about building a resiliency mindset. So working with mindfulness training to try and like be present and to sort of be on Thanksgiving Day in America right now, be thankful, be grateful, and control the things that you can control. And that was a little bit of a game changer for me. And I wrote that with a psychologist because it's not my wheelhouse. And I found that to be one of the most productive chapters in the book. That's what most people say to me. Yeah. So there's that.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And I certainly find other women that I work with, that mindset is might be considered woo-woo, but it's possibly, in fact, it often is, followed by stress, the most important weapon that women have when they can, that resilience building, and when they can really adopt and embrace a positive mindset. So, you know, certainly from my point of view, you know, you can be talking, you know, the same language that I have, you know, those 4 sections of the book and everything just sounds absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm not saying to everyone, read the 4 chapters and then do everything I say. What I do is I'll tell you the what in the beginning, and then I do, like you said at the end of your book, the how. I give bullet points of things that you can try and adopt, and I suggest just trying one of them and just doing it regularly for a few weeks and see if it adds a positive benefit to your life. And if it doesn't, try something else. But you've got to sort of have stickability with these things. Nothing is going to happen quickly. All of these changes take time, and so it's all about sort of like playing the long game, looking ahead and just thinking, how do I want my menopause to look, and how do I see myself aging, and all of those 4 components work well together.
So when you embrace this change yourself, did you, because you know you were really fit beforehand, how did you find that these changes benefited you through your menopause? What changes did you find?
Well, it was really interesting because I thought I had everything nailed, as it were. And so one of the biggest lessons I learned, and I think that many women can take from this, is that it's actually okay to slow down. It's actually okay to put yourself first. And in fact, it's not just okay, I think it should be a priority. And so I, like many other women who are listening here today, probably have people to care for and usually care for them first, and they're somewhere down the pecking order. They neglect what I call like self-preservation or self-care. That doesn't come as a priority to them. And I was exactly the same. And then in addition to that, like to try and beat the ravages of putting on weight, I would exercise more, eat less, and burn out, and find myself on the sofa for days, not able to recover adequately from the type of extra stress I was putting on my body. So I took a big step back, and I just was like, this isn't working. Why isn't it working? I need to know why. And so that was part of the research I did. And there are quite a lot of papers out there that look at postmenopausal women, usually not perimenopausal, are too hard to study, but there are some, that look at just how their body responds to exercise, how it responds to stress, how it responds to like having insulin in our body. Like when we eat, our body produces insulin, like how our body reacts to that through. I went down everything. And so I realized one of the biggest things is that one is I didn't need to exercise every day, and I certainly don't. I do a strength training workout 3-4 times a week. It was okay to take time off. In fact, it's imperative to take time off. It's really important to take time for yourself every day to sort of have that grounding. And I'm not one of these people that can sit and like meditate. My squirrely brain goes, what's for dinner? I haven't done the laundry. but I'll happily go for a walk for 5 minutes with my coffee and just breathe and look around and notice the birds and all of the things that I used to laugh at my grandma about doing. But you know what, like it sort of helps set me up. And also it's okay to say no to people. That's one of the biggest lessons I've learned, because being an ultimate people pleaser, it's really hard to let people down. But like I like my plate to be full enough and not too full, and I'm okay to like turn down opportunity or engagements or requests that just don't fit my sort of like life. And I think that's okay too. Not many of us do that.
It's empowering, isn't it? To be able to say no is really, really empowering. And to be able to prioritize ourselves without that guilt, you know, or that I should be doing X for somebody else, rather than just 10 minutes a day of just doing a little bit of mindset self-care.
And breathing as well is a really great way to sort of elicit the parasympathetic nervous system. So if you are like stressed or anxious, like just deep belly breaths, like making your belly go super big, like all of the things that they tell you you don't want to do, you want to fight against that. Relax the belly, relax the pelvic floor, and just do big deep breaths can really calm down the nervous system. So like even if you just did that every day, you would be benefiting your body so much.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I heard you mention in a previous video I was looking at yours was fitness snacking, and I thought that was a really lovely phrase, because you know you mentioned that you don't have to go full out all day every day, and you know, with the exercise and stuff. Can you explain a little bit more about fitness can't my words out, fitness snacking?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, everyone has an entry point into exercise, right? So one of the hardest things for women to get their head around is, especially through menopause, because it just really impacts our self-esteem, and women start to doubt their physical ability and their athletic ability. So there's a very much like, I can't do this anymore. Like I can't lift weights because it hurts, or like I haven't got the energy and I don't know how to start. There's lots of like barriers going on in our head. And so I want to help women overcome those, because you are really capable of doing things, and we're strong and we are resilient. We might not always feel like it, and we have to honor our body in those moments. But so the fitness snacking came around because you know, there were days when I would be on the bed for hours, like in a state of depression, or just the chronic fatigue that we've all had. Is like, well, what can I do? I want to do something, but I don't want to do a workout. I won't do anything. And that was my mindset for a while. Then I'd be like, well, maybe I'll just go out for a walk. Maybe I'll just move every day. So like going out for a walk for 10 minutes definitely helps with the endorphins and makes you feel better for that, you know, that mental clarity. But when I started to sort of like reintroduce strength training back into my life, I just would say, right, I'm just going to do 10 minutes. I'm going to pick 2 exercises and just do them back to back for 10 minutes. And then that would be me. And that was a win. And so I was always looking for these small wins every day. And you see, what happens is when you start to do something on a regular basis, motivation to try other things happens. It sparks curiosity. I spoke to a psychologist called Dr. Lisa Lewis, who did a PhD on motivation. And she said, you know, when women want to start exercising, they sometimes don't know how, and that is their biggest barrier. And so something she suggests is just try something that sparks joy, like the Marie Kondo of exercise. So maybe that's a Zumba class online, or maybe, you know, it can be anything, and we'll stick with Zumba. And then maybe you'll do that for a few weeks and you'll start to feel good, like twice a week, and you feel good. Then you're like, oh, I wonder what it'd be like if I was to maybe try this body pump class. And maybe you do that for a while. And then when the gym's open, you'll walk by the gym to your body pump class and you'll see someone lifting weights and you'll be like, oh, I wonder how that feels. And so that type of motivation is just how we know motivation happens. It doesn't just happen because you go, right, that's it, I'm going to do it. Very rarely. I mean, there's a few people that can do that. And so that's why I like fitness snacking. And when I had COVID this year, I was talking to Claire about this just before we came on. I don't know how, I'm such a good rule follower, but I got it in March. And I was sick for 3 weeks, but then I had long haul symptoms for 17 weeks, and I was so unwell and frustrated and isolated. It was like being back in perimenopause all over again. And I just was like, I had no energy. I couldn't get my breath. You know, the whole chest thing that happens. And so I knew that I needed to move in just enough. And so that's when I started doing fitness snacking. And I would just do 3 times a week, like 10 minutes. And then the next week I'd do 15 minutes. And, you know, it's just start somewhere is essentially what I'm saying. Yeah.
You mentioned strength training quite a bit. And I know that that's really, really beneficial for so many reasons. Could you explain, particularly going through menopause into post-menopause, could you just explain a little about that?
From the age of around 30, maybe a bit later, we start to lose muscle mass, and it's called sarcopenia, and it usually happens with age and being sedentary. If you're sedentary as you get older, it accelerates. We also know that through perimenopause that we rapidly lose more muscle, and we have the ability to gain a bit more fat. I don't know if you've noticed. And so you know, our body really will struggle to hold on to lean body mass. Lean body mass is just your muscle. And so what happens is, as we get older and sarcopenia sort of kicks in, we lose that protective barrier of our skeletal system. And so we know that strength training is really helpful for osteoporosis, not just to protect the skeleton, especially the spine, but specifically because strength training creates a stimulus where I'm doing this, but the muscle pulls away from the bone every time you do some type of resistance training, and that can generate bone growth. And so people have turned around their DEXA scans with osteoporosis by incorporating and building a resistance training program into their life. And it doesn't have to be long. Like the workouts in my book are 25 minutes, 30 minutes, 3 days a week, maybe 4 if you want to. It actually isn't like what I think people have an image of being in the gym for like 90 minutes and every day, and it's not necessary at all. But it also helps for so many other things. There's a study came out last week that showed that strength training is directly associated with helping to calm anxiety, which we know is prevalent in perimenopause. And so it's worth doing it purely for that. 2 studies last year showed that perimenopausal women, and they also did one on postmenopausal women who adopted a strength training program that maintained and then built lean body mass, could reduce vasomotor symptoms by 70%. So vasomotor symptoms are your hot flashes, cold flashes, flushes, night sweats. So for those symptoms, it's really helpful. And it's also helpful for the other health markers in our lives, the other diseases that we're prone to postmenopause, you know, the cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, I've already said. So we know that it's just building lean mass in the body, which doesn't mean getting big. It just means the difference between the fat percentage and the muscle percentage in your body is so beneficial for most of your health markers. Can be helped, like the ones that sort of like end up killing us. Sorry. Like, so if you can do anything that can just promote good health, well, that's going to help you. That's going to be one of the things you can do. It's great for the immune system as well to help support the immune response. So, I mean, the benefits are endless. And also there's something really unique about being able to be strong and powerful and sort of lifting up a weight you never thought you could. Like most women can carry 25 bags out of Marks and Spencer's, but they pick up 2-pound dumbbells. And I'm like, come on, you are more capable. And so when you start to lift heavy weights often, it sort of sparks this like empowerment feeling. And anyone, I don't know if there's anyone on here who does, strength training can probably they probably agree with me, because it just makes you feel bolder. I can't even describe how it feels, but it's something that I just wish every woman would at least try, because there's no downside and there's always a way you can like get in there. Someone said, how to retain muscle mass? Do you have to lift weights, or is body weight enough? And body weight is sufficient, but over time your body, so somebody's already answered the question. So if you've never done strength training before, then body weight exercises are a really great introduction, and they can create enough stimulus, but over time your body is going to adapt, and someone said that there as well, and you might require more stimulus. And you can actually like change the body weight exercises you're doing to be harder, but ultimately adding more resistance, and usually that's in the form of a weight or a body position change, or like for example, say like a TRX, which is one of the suspension straps that don't actually add any weight to it, but they change your body position so that you have to create more stimulus in the body through tension and strength. And so there's different ways to do it. I don't think it needs to be complicated. I still do the most basic exercises to this day. Simple stuff works.
Simple stuff works.
Resistance bands have helped me create more strength in my glutes. Again, another great tool. And so you just need to know what it feels like to work. It shouldn't tickle. I often say that to people. Like if you did a workout and go, that was great, I could do that all again, then yeah, you didn't do it right. Like you need to be like feeling that it's working. And I sort of give loads of tips in the book on how that feels. But it's like, I mean, there's so many resources out there now in the UK. It's great. Like all these online resources. There's somebody on Instagram called Kate, and I don't know her name, who does a workout every day free on Instagram, and she's targets only menopausal women. She's brilliant. I'll tell you what, I'll put her name in the chat now because I'm terrible at remembering. Am I allowed to do this on your show? Hold on. So Kate ERH Fitness. I'm going to put her handle in here for you, and then I would go and check her out because I don't do workouts online. It's only so many hours in the day. There you go. So if anyone's interested, someone said they've had a hysterectomy. What sort of weight training is safe, appropriate for post-surgery women? If you've had a hysterectomy, you have to make sure that you do wait until you've been given the all clear anyway. And what happens when you have a hysterectomy is it cuts through all the muscles of the core, and so a lot of women can find that it's really, really difficult to engage the core like they used to. And a lot of so it's very similar to if somebody has like a C-section. I don't know whether this was a vaginal hysterectomy or not actually, so I mean it depends, but either way you need to be cleared from the doctor. And then I would start with core functioning, and your core is anything front and back, up and down, right? So from that means your back. So you could do like glute bridges, are really great, glute raises, core exercises for the front, and that would be things like dead bugs, side planks, sometimes forward planks that are contraindicated. It depends what type of surgery. And then other things that women can work on as well as that is deep breathing exercises. Diaphragmatic breathing as well is a great way to start a training program because it works the pelvic floor and the diaphragm together as well as the core front and back. And so sometimes when women have had hysterectomies, they have a weak pelvic floor, and that's actually usually a limiting factor in a lot of exercises. So, you know, possibly I would suggest seeing a pelvic health physiotherapist and just getting the all clear. And actually they're really great exercises for lower back as well. Dead bugs are brilliant. Glute bridges are really great for lower back. You actually need to move the back, but in a safe way.
I definitely found that I had a hysterectomy, and I definitely found that my core was so much. I mean, it's still, even now, it's not, well, I don't think any of our cores are perhaps the same as they were when we were 20 or 30, but well, mine is, yours might be, Amanda, but yeah, it would definitely affected my core for sure. And so take
it slowly. Don't do anything crazy. Do what feels right. If it hurts, stop. If it feels wrong, stop.
Yeah,
seriously. Yeah.
Question, talking about bloating, we're actually talking about training at the moment rather than bloating. I don't know if you can see that one, Amanda, if that's anything that you can.
Yeah, and you know, as far as like the bloating is concerned, I mean, it can be for numerous reasons, and it's one of those things that I talk about a little bit in the book, but I don't dwell on too much because we do know that estrogen receptors are in the intestine, and so just simply the lack of estrogen in there can cause bloating and water retention. And so the simplest solution for that would be hormone replacement therapy. And usually women that go on that find that their guts calm down. But if it doesn't, I definitely would. And again, I interviewed a doctor who did her PhD in gut microbiome. And, you know, it's funny because people are trying to sell probiotics to everyone, and there's very little evidence to show that probiotics work. And it's because in the guts, they don't know what the optimal bacteria should be. So you might be taking a probiotic and it's adding good bacteria to already good bacteria. You just don't know. You're probably just wasting money on that. But there's things you can do in your diet that are helpful, like making sure you have 30 grams of fiber a day. Most people have 10, 15. That's a simple thing that women can do to stay hydrated, which seems like the counterintuitive thing to do for bloating, but it's helpful. So fiber needs water, so I would ensure that you have 30 grams of fiber, lots of water, and then if you're still struggling like with gas and things like that, then maybe just find the things that are irritating you. Like often it's things like cruciferous vegetables, which are things like, you know, broccoli, cauliflower, stuff like that irritate you. So just maybe eliminate the things that irritate you. Because it passes. I went through all of that and then it sorted itself out in postmenopause. It was sort of another symptom that went. So it might be the same as well.
I love the microbiome. It's one of my favorite subjects. And the gut for hormone health.
Yeah.
And somebody's asked if they could say a little bit more about hormone replacement therapy. I suspect is that different in the US to the UK?
Well, in the UK, you have prescribing guidelines, those nice guidelines. I mean, you've done such a great job in the UK of raising awareness through Diane Danzebrink and Dr. Louise Newson. So, you know, you have these two people that have forged forward and made sure that doctors actually have a script that they need to write from. Well, that doesn't exist here in the US. The North American Menopause Society have guidelines, and so do the Obstetrician and Gynecology Society. They all have guidelines. First line treatment should be hormone therapy for women, FDA approved. So FDA approved is just regulated as opposed to unregulated, of which it's like an epidemic over here. There are so many private clinics selling unregulated hormones, you know, mixed with sawdust or whatever it is they put in it, and for hundreds of dollars a month when they can get, you know, the regulated exact same ones for like $6-7 on their insurance. And so that's obviously the first line treatment. And as far as natural alternatives are concerned, it's really interesting because, you know, when I dug deep into this and tried to find like the damning research that said black cohosh is the absolute best thing you should take, there's very little evidence out there, right? So and you know, anecdotally, I've spoken, had conversations within my community. It works for some, the natural alternatives work for others. Haven't worked for me, but neither is hormone therapy. Like I've struggled with hormone therapy the whole time. You know, there are different ones that people take. The adaptogens are things that that we do know work and help with stress management. So ashwagandha, things like that have been shown to be fairly helpful. Valerian is another one that's got some research behind it for sleep, to help with sleep and some hot flashes. And black cohosh has some mild data that shows that that can help with some hot flashes, but it's not comprehensive. And so and it's also not regulated. Supplement industry isn't ultimately regulated, and so you don't always know the quality of the product you're buying.
Yeah, that's really important thing to consider there. And I think, you know, to get from that is that there is no one size fits all. There is no, you know, there's no one potion, lotion or pill, as I constantly say, no, you know, single potion, lotion or pill that will work for everybody, including HRT. Yeah. It's a case of, I say, it's like finding the tools in your toolbox and pulling the tools out at different times, because the journey will change throughout the perimenopause to postmenopause years. Have this armory around you that you can pull out. And
that's such a great point, Claire. Sorry to interrupt, but just that what you do now might change in 2 years.
Absolutely.
You might not need to do it anymore yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So just going back to your book, and I still can't say it, I'm on the Menopocalypse.
If you can't say apocalypse, the zombies are going to come and get you. But if you can't say apocalypse, you can't say Menopocalypse. But
I can't. But yeah, I can spell it, so it's fine. So if you were to give us one bit of advice from each of those 4 sections of your book, what would they be?
Okay, so the first one is nutrition. So protein is the queen of all macronutrients. So I spoke to you about sarcopenia being muscle loss that happens to us. Something that happens, that changes in perimenopause and menopause, is something called muscle protein synthesis, the ability to break down protein in the food to build up muscle. So I'm telling you to do strength training to build and maintain lean muscle mass, but I'm also telling you that it's a bit harder to do. And the reason is because of the way our body breaks down protein. And as we age anyway, we need to increase our protein source. And you definitely need to do it through menopause. And so that can be quite difficult for women. And I've done loads of polls, like in my community, like, do you eat enough protein? And most of them, like 70% don't. And I don't know if it's because we don't like chewing our food, or, you know, I don't know what it is. I mean, I actually have to really consciously think about eating protein. So the first thing I would say is, for every meal, and that's usually 4 meals a day for most people, 3 or 4 meals a day, always ask the question, where is my protein? And women are like, it depends on your weight and height and all of that things, but as a ballpark figure, if you try to get 100 grams a day of protein in, that would be good. And that's not that easy either. So that would be my first tip. Protein also fills you up. It takes more calories to burn it down. It's got a higher thermic effect. And so it usually helps with those burnouts, those 3 o'clock burnouts, you know, the muffin time when we need a cup of tea and a biscuit. Well, if you have protein at every meal, it sort of calms the blood sugars down. And so you'll find that you're probably not as ravenous or like hangry. So that's just helpful for that. In the movement, although I do want to push strength training, I would encourage people just to move every day, and just don't stress about it, but get outside and move, walk, go for a walk to Starbucks, walk to Costa Coffee or whatever. Like, just, especially now in lockdown, it's a nightmare, right? So if you can just get out, it's just going to be good for your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health. So do it, just get outside. And there isn't a magic number either. I mean, there was the 10,000 steps that was arbitrarily pulled out of someone's butt, and it really doesn't matter. Like aiming for like 6,000 to 7,000 steps a day would be great. If you could do that, like a half-hour walk, get a dog. A dog is not just for Christmas though. And then the next bit, the stress management, is, you know, that's either find something that makes you take time every day to yourself. Like I said, it could be that walk, it could be just 5 minutes of deep breathing, something that just, you're on your own with your thoughts, you're very present. And if it's not that you do, then the other thing is change something for your sleep hygiene. I give loads of tips in the book. Sleep hygiene is key. Like, loads of women are struggling to sleep, and there's small things you can do to just sort of get the mood right, you know. Actually, sex is one of them, but that's not top of my list. That's not top of my list. And then the last one, the resilience, I call it shift happens, because I talk about resiliency mindset, and I encourage you to go to this website here. Oh, hold on. I'm going to put it in the notes, character, if I can spell, .org, viacharacter.org, and if I've spelled that wrong, I'm very sorry, is a psychological test you can do that helps you find your strengths. Now, when we age and when we go through menopause, we sort of lose our identity, and it's a terrible thing. We've all gone through it. We don't like the way we look. We don't like the way we're acting. We feel less of ourselves. And this is just a really great way to hone in on what you are, what your strengths are. And I love this. So, for example, I did this, and my strength came out as curiosity, and I was like, well, that's a bit lame. But the psychological definition of being curious is to find a topic you're interested in, go down a rabbit hole, do a deep dive, find the research, find the information, share it with others, and help other people. And that's essentially what I did with the book. And so knowing that about me, I feel okay when I make choices that I go down these like paths and I don't know where it's going to lead me. And so it makes my choices easier, and it makes me feel better about myself because I know that I'm like doing things that actually add value to my life. And so I just love that. And I think that if you can do things up here that can help you, then you should.
Oh, that's fantastic. Those really great tips. And if people want to get, hold up the book again. I tried to do that pose. I'm going to post it and share it. It looks nothing like you.
Do you know, people post pictures of doing that all the time, and I love it. It makes me so happy.
So funny. I will share it with you. And how can people get in contact with you?
So on my website, Fit and Chips, which is fitnchips.com, I'll stick it in the if I can spell, I'll stick it in the chat again.
Yeah.
Will lead you to everywhere. I have a menopause community, I have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. And I'm a bit sweary and a bit naughty, and I think that's okay. It's my page, I can do what I want. But I also do add, I hope, lots of value. That's the whole point, right? And so I just want women to know that, like, the whole point of the book is I wanted women to know that, like, the hormones make everything else feel out of control. And it's just, I know what that feels like, and it's horrible. But if there's one or two things you can do that you own, that you actually are going to run with and you're going to stick with, it just feels so good to inside, it just makes you feel whole again. And that's sort of ultimately what you want. And then, when we come out the other side, those of us who are in postmenopause, mostly things seem to calm down a bit, and you've just got a clearer picture, and you're already doing things that have improved your health and your wellness moving forward.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Well, I will be sharing all your contact details and links to the book when we upload this onto YouTube. So, everybody please do go, and if you've missed some of this session, which has been absolutely fascinating, I've loved it, then, all Amanda's details will be there as well. And so has anybody got any more questions of Amanda before she's...
I was going to answer a couple, but there's somebody on here called NSK, and she's just great. She's like answering all the questions like I would answer them, so just ask her. But if there is any questions, let me know, and I'm happy to answer them. And then also, if you go over onto my Instagram page, I occasionally will post workouts, and what I'm finding on there is like hundreds of people are saving these workouts, and they're all doable. And I try and do a one dumbbell workout. You could grab I don't know, someone said, oh, I could do that with a gallon of milk. It would probably end up looking like cheese at the end of it. The way I make you swing things about. But I really just encourage women to just believe in themselves a little bit more, even in those days when it's really hard, right? I understand how that can be, and it's really easy to be down on ourselves when we're feeling as low as we can, but it isn't always going to be that way.
Absolutely. I'm a long time post-menopause, and I can confidently say to you all that, there's a really bright light at the other end of the menopause tunnel. It may not seem like it at the time, and there may be some bends in that tunnel, but that light is always there. It's never straight. It always, meanders around. So you never know what's going to be around the corner, but there is a really bright light waiting for you at the other end. So hang on in there, ladies. Hang on in there. Amanda, thank you so much indeed. It's been an absolute delight speaking to you. And I'm looking forward to diving into the book and actually motivating myself to do some of those exercises that you're been talking about. I personally find it really hard in lockdown now. The gym's closed and I don't want to go back to the gym when it opened anyway. But having that motivation to get up in the morning and put it into my day. And I do have the time. I'm sure we all have time, but you know, we've got.
And that's something I would suggest as well. Like, we schedule everything else, right? We know when we're going to have lunch, we know we're going to make tea and stuff like that. So just schedule it in. And if you need accountability, Zoom in with a friend, do it with somebody else. If you're going to go for a walk and you can meet with another friend, be accountable that way. Like, that can be really helpful as well.
Yeah, loads of things we can do. Thank you so much again, and thank you all of you for attending this evening. We're not going to have a Positive Living in the in December because I'm sure we'll all be busy lying down, holding our stomachs, or emptying the last of the gin bottle down the sink, of course.
While you're down there, you can be planking. What's your excuse? I'm just joking.
But we've got some good ones lined up for good speakers lined up for the beginning of the year for you. And it just leaves me to say thank you again, Amanda. I know it's Thanksgiving and I do hope your turkey isn't burning in the oven. Or that somebody else is kindly doing it all for you, of course.
Somebody else is kindly doing it for me. And have a Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year.